Assalamualaikum. Today I will explain on software project acquisition. What is software project acquisition? Project acquisition is the process of obtaining products and services through contracting. For those organizations that are purchasing or commissioning rather than developing at least some of the products or parts of the products. So this sentence means that if the organization is not developing in-house but to outsource from third party or vendor, then the software project acquisition needs to be done. But if, let's say, even though to develop it in-house, still software project acquisition is a strategy that still needs to be done before a project actually kick off or officially committed. Because project acquisition is actually about trying to understand whether it is worthy to proceed with that project. So during software project acquisition, a business document specifying all relevant considerations needs to be done through a feasibility study. So in this document, usually will have the preliminary requirements, the projected funding for the project, the staffing, competitors, technical concerns and risk. So project acquisition usually to have an umbrella view or overview of the projection, whether this project can be done, can be achieved within the available resources that the organization and the software team have at that time. So the steps for project acquisition to prepare for the request for proposal. So this proposal actually is the feasibility report, and then to present the proposal to the organization or to the top management, and then to do some negotiation, because in the proposal budget will incur the projection of the budget for the project. So the negotiation on the cost, on the resources and so on will happen, and there might be some changes. And when both party agree, has mutual agreement, then the last step is contract acceptance. Once the contract is signed, then the project is officially committed. So acquisition strategy is a high-level roadmap for program execution, starts from initiation until the post-production of a software project. Acquisition is designed so we can see how to achieve program objectives within the resource constraints that available. So this is to minimize risk rather than the team or the organization straightly jump into the project, but later they found out that they don't have enough resources in terms of money, in terms of technology and others. So acquisition strategy is important in the very beginning. So acquisition strategies serve as a guide to direct and control the project. We can say that software project acquisition is an upfront planning, which is important because everything must be planned upfront. So what is feasibility study? Feasibility study is a study made before committing to a project. So this feasibility study is done during the project acquisition. A feasibility study leads to a decision whether to go ahead, do not go ahead, or to think again about the project. And usually the feasibility study often leads to a budget request. That's why later there will be negotiation. A feasibility study may be in the form of a proposal report, which is the request for proposal. And later it can be expanded into more details for developing the software project plan once the project kick off. Why feasibility study is important? Because to help mitigate the risk involved in decisions about financial outlays, to help determine which acquisitions are necessary for continued operation or growth. A careful consideration and accounting also will help limit the investment of time and money required to fulfill a given business needs. Feasibility study can be difficult because of some uncertainty. For example, clients may be unsure of the scope of the project. Benefits are usually very hard to quantify. Approach is usually ill-defined. Estimates of resources and timetable are very rough. Organizational changes also may be needed. And then, because when you do feasibility study, you start to building a team for the software project. So you need to find the expertise for the projects, and also to maybe to hire other expertise from the outside. So that's why changes may be needed. Therefore, feasibility studies rely heavily on the judgment of experience and expert people. Mistakes made at the beginning of a project are the most difficult to correct. The feasibility study usually will give you some recommendations whether to begin with the project or not. So some of the information that are needed during the feasibility study is who is the project for, what are the boundaries of the project, the benefits of the project, can it be quantified, whether it will have some return or profit in the end, is it the technical feasibility is possible, whether there are number of resources, what is the estimation of the staff, time, equipment, and etc. And what are the options if the project is not done. A major computer system makes demands on an organization. So to ask whether the organization have the management expertise, does the organization have the technical expertise, even if the work is carried out by a contractor, the organization needs experts to oversee the work, because if you have expert from the inside the organization, at least the expert can actually maintain or make sure that the interest of the organization is being addressed. So another thing is to question whether the organization committed to the changes in the personnel workflow and etc. So this is one example why you need a feasibility study. So the benefits of feasibility study. So it will create a marketable product, because in the feasibility study you want to see whether the product is marketable or not. You want to attract customers. You want to have sales after the production of the software. So usually when company invests money in a project, of course they want some return. So feasibility study also improve the efficiency of an organization. So it can control a system that is too complex to control manually. Organization also will benefit from the new or improved service, and then safety or security. In terms of technical, what would be the feasibility study to needs to check whether the project, the proposed system is technically feasible. For example, there an outline of the requirements, whether a possible system design, possible choices of software to be acquired or developed, and what would be the estimation of numbers of users, data transactions, and etc. Another feasibility study that need to be done is on the planning and resources, the feasibility of the resources. So in the feasibility study, need to estimate the staffing and equipment needs, identify major milestones and decision points, identify interactions with and dependencies on external systems, and to provide a preliminary list of deliverables and delivery dates. Another feasibility study is to study the alternatives and also the risks. So in feasibility study, you should identify risks and alternatives. Risk is what can go wrong, how will progress be monitored and problems identified, what are the fallback options. So risk is something that is not happened yet, but need to predict in the very beginning. So later, if that risk happen, so what would be the action, right? And then techniques for feasibility studies. So the highest priority is to ensure that the client and development team have the same understanding of the goals of the system. For the development team to understand the goals, need to interview with the client and the staff of the organizations and to review of existing systems, including the competitors. And then for the client, it needs to demonstrate the key features or similar system to at least mock up user interfaces, how they perceive the system would look like, and then to do some walkthrough on the typical transactions or interactions. So feasibility report, usually the RFP, the proposal itself, so it should be a well written, well presented document for the general audience, for the um, client, financial management, technical management, and etc. It should be short enough that everybody can understand it when we read, and then the details can be included in supporting documents. So this is the overview. I mean the picture of how project acquisition is done. So first the the organizations, okay, will review the technical proposal, the financial proposal review, and in terms, this is all written in the proposal, request for proposal, and then to check with the finance department whether the budget request is actually something that is logic and can be, is there any sponsor? So when everything is negotiated and agreed, then there will be contract, signed contract. So in the contract acceptance, the price, delivery date, payment are in agreement with those specified in order. All terms and conditions are agreed upon, and any conditions are inserted in the order, and the scope of work is agreed. So once the contract is accepted, then the proposal later will become crucial legal documents. So that's the end of the topic project acquisition.